comfortably today. You might want to have a carpet or a rug or something to lay on, and possibly a book or a pillow.
No.
We're also giving you the link to the slide deck for future reference if you would like to hang on to that or follow along.
Brenda, no worries. You can always catch the recording immediately at the end of the session on Facebook, or tomorrow morning it should be uploaded onto the our webinar archive. So, no worries. And it is 4 o'clock, and we are live streaming and we are recording, so we're going to go ahead and get started.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's session. This is our second session in the self-care series put on by your arts education team from DPI. Today is Life Hacks for Grounding Yourself. A reminder that this is a 90-minute session today, but again, we've already heard that a few people might have to duck out a couple minutes early, and that is all right. You'll get an email tomorrow with a follow-up of everything from today. We are your... Oh, Brandon, we are not seeing the slides move.
Oh, I apologize. There we go.
Okay, and we are your DPI Arts Education team putting on today's session. I'm Sayward Grinley, your Dance and Visual Arts Consultant, and Brandon is your Music and Theater Arts Consultant. We are very excited to welcome our special guest for today, North Carolina Symphony horn player and Alexander Technique instructor, Rachel Niketopoulos. And she will be introducing herself and saying hi in just a few minutes. Today's agenda is on this next slide here. Remember, we are talking today about life hacks for grounding yourself. Our webinar goals today are to give educators tools to meet their own social and emotional needs. Some of these include learning how to let go in daily activities, some awareness gems for moments in your day, engaging in purposeful breath, and to make connections on how to support your students in this work as well. I'm going to turn it over to Brandon to give us just a little background on our self-care series.
So back in 2015, our predecessors had the wonderful idea to bring educators from across all four arts areas and non-arts educators together to experience the arts and rekindle, reflect, reconnect, and renew in a conference called Arts Are for Life. And we recognize that this same model, even if we're not able to get together, could be applied to teacher self-care. So we put together this series that is probably what you saw and how you got here today. And we encourage everyone to come experience as many as they possibly can. If you miss any of them or are unable to attend, they all will be archived in our webinar archives, and you can go back and revisit and watch. You still can receive CEUs, you can still earn your digital badge. And without any further ado, we're gonna pass it over to Rachel. All right, Rachel. Would you like me to turn off the slides, or would you like me to, would you like to talk through the slides first?
I would like to see as many people as possible.
Beautiful. So I will turn off the slides.
That would be ideal. Thank you.
There you go.
Hello, everyone.
So we do encourage you today to turn on your camera if you are comfortable with that, so that Rachel can interact with you as best as she can. All right, Rachel, it's all yours.
Thank you very much. So just a little bit of background. We have very little time considering how much I want to share with you. I play horn in the North Carolina Symphony. I started to learn Alexander Technique. That's my cat. I started to learn Alexander Technique when I was a student because I had very bad back pain as a horn player. In the opera pit, I was having a hard time in my 20s. And so I learned Alexander Technique, started to learn it. It's a process. And then I eventually, it helped me so much that I decided to certify to teach others. I teach at UNCG a 3-hour class in the music, theater, and dance department there every week. And I work with a lot of high school and college students, but I also have 70-year-old students, which are also really fun. If you've never heard of Alexander Technique, it helped me with my back pain, but that was just the beginning. It helped me with my horn playing. It helped me with my breath. It helped me with my thinking. What it does is it helps identify what your habits are, habits of physical habits, but also habits of thinking, habits of moving. So it really is a perfect topic for social emotional learning. It's about learning how to let go of the habits that don't serve us anymore. I'm not saying that habits are bad. Some people say, oh, I have a bad habit. Habits are bad. Habits are great. We need our habits. I always tell my students, if we didn't have the habit of walking, we'd have to relearn every single day how to walk, right? We love our habits, but some of them don't help us anymore. And as teachers, I know I grew up in my house. I had 7 brothers and sisters, and my mom was a teacher, and she had babies from the 1950s to the 1970s. And every year she had a baby, she took 1 year off of teaching, and then she would get back into the school system in Iowa. And she taught speech and English, and then toward the end of her career, she taught special ed. And so I grew up in a house with a lot of activity all the time, kind of a lot of chaos. And I know from my mother, who was grew up on a farm, that teachers do so much. And they get into this mindset of doing for the students, doing. And Alexander Technique is about undoing. It's about stopping the doing. And my teachers in school used to say, it's hard work doing nothing. And I still can't, I can get my mother onto the floor now that she's 90. I can get her onto the floor to stop quilting or gardening or riding her bicycle for a little while so I can work with her. But she is a doer. There's nothing wrong with doing, but we also want to learn how to stop doing. And there's some certain things that I want to show you today that are simple, that you can do anytime, anywhere, practically. So let's get started.
Rachel, I just wanted to jump in for a second. Some of our participants are asking if you can speak just a little louder.
Sure.
All right, thanks.
Do I need to turn up my iPad?
I'm not
the
sure.
volume is kind of down a little bit. Yes, I can speak louder. Yes.
Thank you.
Is that better? I just turned it up. Is that better? Okay.
I think we can hear you better.
All right. The first thing that if we could, is it possible that we could all get onto the floor for just a few minutes? Is that possible? Do you have a space that you could get onto the floor? Because we're in our looking at the computer screen mode right now, which I'm sure that you do a lot. And I want to reset, if possible. Get onto the floor. Should get into a comfy chair. When you're on the floor, I like to put a little something under my head, either a book or a small pillow. I use this gardening pad because it's softer than a book. In school, we always had to rest our heads on books. They get a little hard. I'm just going to lie on the floor. So if you could get onto the floor where you can still hear me, and we're going to go into the semi-supine position, which is flat on your back with your knees bent and your feet flat on the floor. And what we're going to do down here is find a way to be comfortable. Now, if you're not comfortable in this position, which sometimes people aren't, find a way to be comfortable. Maybe that requires you to put a little pillow under your tailbone, because sometimes people's tailbones hurt a little bit here. It's possible if you're having back pain or stiffness or anything like that, Sometimes it's good to put the bottom of your legs, your calves, up on an ottoman or the couch or something like that. But I find that most people are pretty comfortable once they get onto the floor. But if you're not, I don't want you to lie there hurting. That's not what this is about. You could even come onto your side if that feels more comfortable. All right. Now this is what in Alexander technique, this is what we call constructive rest. Constructive rest. It's not the floating away, floating away into another land that we do at the end of a yoga class if you've done yoga. It's not that. It's constructive rest. So we're staying with the body. We're connecting the body and the mind. So Alexander technique is a psychophysical technique, mind-body technique. So we're staying with our thoughts, but we're dropping into a more body awareness, thinking about the body. So first things first, feel your back on the floor. Feel your backside on the floor. Feel the weight of your head on your pillow or your book. And we're going to do just that imprint on the floor, as if you were lying on the sand at the beach and someone came along and lifted you up. What would your imprint in the sand look like? So see what that would look like. And then let's go to the breath next. Paying attention to breath. Breath awareness. Awareness of breath. It's a little tricky when I ask people to pay attention to their breath, because they start to overbreathe almost immediately. I don't want you to do that. I just want you, if you can, to be an observer of your breath. Can you observe how your body wants to breathe? And the body, we breathe differently all day long. Sometimes our breath is shallow, sometimes it's deep, sometimes we're holding it, sometimes we're breathing through the mouth, breathing through the nose. So if you can be an observer of your body on the floor and breathing, let's do that for just a minute. The nice thing about being on the floor and paying attention to breath. I'm sorry, my cat is making so much noise. The nice thing about being on the floor is that when you breathe, let's do nasal breathing. Your diaphragm drops down and your ribs move. And when you're on the floor, you can really feel your ribs move, can't you? You can feel your ribs moving against the floor, against the mat, against the rug, whatever you're lying on. So the diaphragm drops down for the inhale and it floats back up for the exhale. And we're doing passive exhale. We're not going to blow out our air. The benefit of breathing in through the nose, there's so many benefits to breathing in through the nose. So we want to focus on nasal breathing. And we want to nasal breathe as much as we possibly can in our life. If you're wearing a mask, you're nasal breathing. If you're out for a walk, you're nasal breathing. So when possible, we want to breathe in and out through the nose. Most especially in. When we breathe in through our nose, we're filtering the air. Nitric oxide in the nose zaps the viruses, the germs, filters out the air pollutants, filters out the pollen. So much pollen. It also brings the temperature of the air to within 1 degree of your body temperature. So it prepares the air to come into the lungs. That is not so shocking. I mean, I'm from Iowa. If you mouth breathe in the winter in Iowa, your lungs feel like they're freezing because they are. You're making them so cold, they hurt. So nasal breathing, and we're going to slow down the nasal breath. So breathing in, breathing out, and slowing it down. The most important part that I want you to pay attention to with breath is the exhale. Emptying out the lungs and then allowing the breath to come in. Empty out the lungs so that they can fill with the fresh air, the new air. When we do constructive rest on the floor, one of the benefits of it is we are letting the spine spread out onto the floor. And as we go about our day, walking around doing things, the head weighs 10 to 12 pounds. And so the discs that are between the vertebrae can get compressed. They do get compressed. As you walk, as gravity is happening, we're compressing the spine just a little bit. So when you get on the floor and take the gravity away and take the weight off the spine, then those discs can go back to their full shape. And that's really protective for the spine and really protective for the body, because those discs act not just as shock absorbers, but they also protect the spine, because the nerves are coming out of the spine from your spinal cord. And so getting on the floor and letting the discs fill back up, decompress, protects your nerves as well. And when you take care of your spine and you take care of your brain and you take care of your nerves, you're taking care of yourself. And it's really simple. All you have to do is get on the floor. And I know that seems simple, but my students, it's their homework. I call it their homework for life. And I don't want to set them up for failure. So I tell my students, my college students, I only want you to do it every day, even if it's just for a minute. So get on the floor, even if it's just for a minute, even if it's just for 2 minutes, just drop to the floor, get onto your back. Now, when we get up from the floor, we want to get up carefully, and I'll show you, or maybe I'll talk you through it. When we're on the floor, one of the benefits is that we're letting go of tension. So we don't want to get up in a way that builds a lot of tension back up into your body. And so now on the floor, just let your knees come to one side together. So you roll onto your side. And you're on your side. And here we're just going to spend a moment, because you still have some contact with the floor, don't you, when you're on your side? Your ribs are still in contact with the floor. And you're still breathing. Oftentimes when people go to do something else, they hold their breath. So we want to take what we learned on the floor, which was awareness of breath and release, and bring the awareness of breath and the release into the upright world. So you're on your side. You can still feel that your ribs are moving against the floor when you deep breathe in through your nose and out. So take a snapshot of that feeling, that when we deep breathe, our ribs move. And that's deep breathing through the nose. And then with your hand in front, go ahead and push yourself up and let the head be the last thing that comes up off the floor. I'm going to come up in this easy way. See if I can. And beyond sitting, now, let's take it all the way up to standing. And let's take a little walk around. And I want you to notice how you feel, if you feel any differently than you did when we first began. So let's come on up to standing, and then take a little walk, a little stroll. Feel your feet on the ground. Now this class, entitled Grounding, okay, I'm going to talk to you while you keep walking. It's very simple. Feeling the bottom of your foot in contact with the ground is incredibly helpful. I'm a performer. I go on stage. I play for lots of people. And I always think about the bottom of my feet when I'm walking out on stage, when I'm walking around backstage. I'm just simply feeling the ground, because when stress comes in, one of the first things we do is we squeeze. We squeeze our feet, we squeeze our legs, we squeeze our butts, our backs, our bellies, our ribs, our chests, our necks, our jaw, our eyes. We just go into this squeezing, tightening, clenching mode. And one of the best ways to get the whole body to let go of that is to feel your feet on the ground. Feel the bottom of your feet, the whole foot. So the heel, the midfoot, the toes, everything. People tend to stand tipped onto the front of their feet. Go ahead and stand now and feel your heels. Let your heels sink down. Let your whole foot be on the floor. One of my Alexander teachers in New York, she'd say, heels down, head up, the rest is none of your business, which was her shorthand way of saying, feel your feet on the ground and feel the connection all the way up to the top of your head. It's like a really quick shorthand for release throughout the whole system. And practicing that throughout the day is really easy to do. You just have to remember. That's the key. The key is to remember. All right. Let's come back to the screen. If you would, I would like to share the screen in just a moment. Just a moment. I have my spine. I had it removed to show you. Just kidding. Here's a spine. And what I was talking about, the discs between the vertebrae. So here are the vertebrae. We have 24 of them. That's your sacrum. That's the bottom. The very bottom of it is the tailbone, which I used to have, but a little trombone player kid broke it off. So here's your spine. Those squishy discs in between, which are very protective. In this, you can see these are the nerves coming out from the spinal cord. The way that vertebrae are designed is so genius. They each have a little hole in it in the design, and then when you stack 24 of them on top of one another, you create a bony tunnel, and down through this bony tunnel comes your spinal cord. It's really, really smart. So your spinal cord is protected, and what is so important to do throughout our life is to take care of our spine. Is to take care of our spine and the spinal cord inside, and what's on top of that but the brain. Okay, so that is the most important thing, really, is to be mindful of taking care of that. And so one of the best ways to take care of it is to get on the floor, on your back, even if it's just for a minute. More than 1 minute is also good. but even if just for a quick reset on the floor throughout the day. I mean, when I practice my horn, I am definitely on the floor. I buzz my lips and my mouthpiece. I'm buzzing on the floor. Throughout the day, I just get onto the floor. I don't even use a mat. I just go, I'm in the kitchen now and I could use some floor time. So I just hit the floor in the kitchen or wherever. Okay. The one of the slides that I was hoping we could look at would be the one of the lungs. Could you share that one, the anatomy of breathing slide? Yes, that one. This is just looking at the top of that is what I want to get into your minds. The drawing of that guy, the side view and his back view. Shows us that the lungs, when we were deep breathing on the floor through our nose, could you feel your back? Could you feel your ribs moving? The lungs are in the back. They are also on the sides. They are also in the front. They're really big. They're very deep from front to back. They're very deep. So when we breathe, I used to think as a horn player, even as a horn player in my 20s, when I would breathe, I thought my lungs were just right here in the front. And so I would breathe according to what my body map was, and my body map was incorrect. So when I would breathe to play the horn, I would go up to breathe, thinking, oh, I'm filling up the lungs because they're right here. They're right here in the front. And then I took a body mapping class, and my Alexander teachers said, reach down for the breath. Reach down into your back for breath. And that made such a huge difference. And this is something to practice and to think about. So if you look at that drawing, it shows the depth of the lung from front to back, how high it goes. Your lungs go very high. They go past your collarbone, actually, and up into your top rib. And then the one on the drawing on the right, which shows these lungs in the back. So when we breathe, that's what we want. And that's why we get on the floor. We get on the floor to teach ourselves, where are the lungs? How do I breathe into them? Of course, they're also in the front. When I play in the North Carolina Symphony Woodwind Quintet, our clarinet player, he always has the little kids, hundreds of them. He says, okay, everybody take a deep breath. And then you see like hundreds of little kids who are sitting on the floor. They all take their deep breath, which is, I'm sure you can visualize it. All their little heads go up, all their little chests go up. And then they want to look like they're breathing, right? They want to look like they're taking a deep breath. But as teachers, it's our job to teach how to really take a full breath to young ones. And how to really take a full breath is in through the nose and deep down into your back. The lower lobes of the lungs, where the gas exchange happens. So one way that I do with my students of all ages, is take your hands and put them on the sides of your ribs here, or you can hug yourself, either way. And then we're going to just exhale first. Exhale out your mouth or your nose, either one. And then once we're pretty well empty, we're going to breathe in through our nose. Can you feel your lower ribs moving? Emptying out all the way. I wish that every little kid knew this. The deep breath. Where the air is going, where to feel for the air. Deep, reaching down for breath. Reaching down for the in-breath. So that's a really, really powerful feeling. You can feel your own ribs moving. So if we could go to screen share now, I'm going to share my screen. because I want to show you, I would like to show you this really cool app that I was showing Brandon and Sayward the other day. Is it working?
I think it's still spinning, but it looks like it's trying. I
Okay.
remember last time it took a minute too.
Okay. All right. This is an app that's called Essential Anatomy 5. I use it in my classes, and I used to teach a lot from paper. And you'll see if this works, you'll see in a moment why I switched from teaching mostly on paper to using this app. Let's see if I can. Did it work?
We can see your WebEx. Are you in the app?
Oh,
there we
worked.
go.
Ah,
Perfect.
yes. Okay. Let's turn it. Oh, I'm so happy it worked. Yes. Let's first look how cool this is. We can, you can, oh, how many nights did I stay up so late? Then we can add the layers one by one. So many layers of muscle. So let's look at the very deepest layer. And at the very deepest layer, we have the muscle that we've been working with so far today, the diaphragm. There it is. It's shaped like an umbrella or a mushroom cap or a jellyfish, or it's a very strong muscle. And diaphragm in Greek means partition. So it's the partition or the barrier between your chest and your abdomen. What's above the diaphragm, organ-wise? Heart and lungs. What's beneath the diaphragm? Everything else. All the squishy stuff. 25 feet of intestines, your stomach, liver, spleen, pancreas, gallbladder, reproductive organs, bladder, everything. So when we breathe in, and you see the shape of it is dome-shaped. When we breathe in, the diaphragm drops down. And you can see, if I zoom in, the diaphragm has little fingers that come down onto the spine. That's called the central tendon of the diaphragm. So your diaphragm is attached to your spine. And it's also attached all along the inside of your lower ribs. So when it drops down, it flattens out a bit and it pushes all the squishy stuff, all the organs. And in fact, it sort of massages out these organs and helps them with their function. So the deeper we breathe, the slower and deeper and softer we breathe, the better it is overall for our health as well. So things in your organs don't get stagnant. There's this movement of the breath that is moving them many, many times an hour, every day, all day long, and all night long. That's your diaphragm. The next thing I want to just get into your body map. So your body map is what you think you look like. And as I said, my body map of my lungs was completely wrong, completely incorrect, and it was not helping me. When I corrected my body map of where my lungs were, my breathing got way better. My playing got better. My sound got better. And that was me like on my way then to winning a professional job once I understood how breathing worked. The next muscle I want to show you, which is very important, and you can't feel it. I'm going to show you two muscles that you can't really feel, your diaphragm and your psoas. But let's look at this one. This is the longest muscle in the body. Your psoas is attached to the inside of your thigh, comes up and attaches here. Where the yellow is represents tendon, attaches to your spine, and it knits itself up into the diaphragm. So your diaphragm and your diaphragm and your legs are connected. Isn't that cool? So when our legs are tight, it's really hard to breathe because we're tightening up the muscle that's holding onto the diaphragm, the psoas. So the psoas muscle helps us walk, walk up steps, lift the leg, and it can be pretty tight, chronically tight in people. And when it is, it causes back pain. So one of the best ways to help release the psoas is what we did at the beginning of class, which was lie on the floor and help and breathe and help to release that muscle. All right. The next part of the body that I want to talk about is up here, because at the end, after we sort of look at all this stuff and we have an idea of it, we're going to get back on the floor and do some practice. Let's come in to the eyes now, next. So here's your eye socket, right? Your eye socket is made up of a whole bunch of different skull bones, right? So we're visualizing the eyeball inside there. And when we have strain, emotional strain, stress, how do we take it in as humans? We take it in through our eyes. Dogs, they take in the world through their noses. If you have a dog, you know that is true. They don't get interested really in something until they smell it. With us, our main sense is vision. So when we take things in through our eyes that is stressful or exciting or anything, there is a bit of visual strain that happens. And your eyes, you know, most people, when they think about the eye, they think about like, oh yeah, the muscle around the eye on the outside. I'm going to let go of that muscle. But I'm going to ask you to go deeper inside to the deepest layers of the eye, the eyeball muscles, right? Here they are. They are attached to these bones of the skull, the different bones. And what they do, here we go, is they wrap around the eyeball and they move the eye. This is how we move our eyes to look at things. There's 6 muscles that are attached to the eyeball that move the eyeball. And guess what? They can get tight just like any other muscle in your body. And they can get chronically tight. See, let's put it in so you can see what we're looking at. There it is. See how they wrap around the eye? Now imagining for a moment, softening your eyes, releasing those muscles. If you can visualize these muscles as letting go, releasing. When a muscle lets go, when it stops grabbing, it goes back to its resting length. A lot of times people want to stretch their muscles back, but the way to let go of a muscle is to let go. It sounds really silly. It sounds really basic because it is. So the way to let go is to let go. But how do I do that? How do I let go of my eyes? Visualizing them is a really good step in that direction. Understanding what they look like, how they move, what they're doing. And now that you know what they look like, I want you to sort of remember, okay, these are the muscles of the eyes. These are the muscles of the eyes. Let's put the nervous system in so you can see. Right here in the middle is the optic nerve. So the optic nerve is in the back of the eyeball. It takes the information, the light information that comes in through the cornea and the lens, projects that information onto the back of the eye, which is the retina, and the retina transfers that information into the optic nerve here, that sort of yellowish tube in the middle of the screen. The information, and it carries it to the back of your head. So if you will please take your hand and place it on the back of your skull, like you'd palm a basketball. This is where we see from. In other words, the eyes, think of the eyes as windows onto the brain. The optic nerve has to carry it all the way through to the back of the brain to the upper visual cortex, which is in the back. So we don't know what we're looking at until that image comes, the information comes all the way to the back. And then we say, oh, I'm looking out the window, or I'm looking at a glass of water, or whatever it is that you're looking at. All right, so that's the second piece of anatomy information that I want you to take an imprint of and remember. Take the nervous system out. Isn't this cool? Isn't this cool? You can put in the arteries, you can put in the veins, you can put in your digestion, your respiratory system. It's really quite a great app. If you're at all interested, it's a good teaching tool as well. This is what I wanted to show us to look at next. Here we go. I've taken off the face bones because I want to show you your sinuses. When we're breathing through our noses, this is where the air is going. So the air comes in, so much different than mouth breathing. The air is sort of forced through all of these passageways. Sinus in Latin, I think it's Latin, means curve, right? So it's very curvy, all these passageways, and within them are little cilia, little fingers that catch the pollutants, that catch the viruses, catch the bacteria, and grabs them and filters them out. And so breathing through the sinuses is massively better for your health than breathing through your mouth, because your mouth doesn't catch anything. So whatever you breathe in through your mouth goes straight down into your lungs. But when you breathe in through your nose, the way we are designed to breathe, what you're doing is you're filtering the air, you're warming the air, you're humidifying the air, you're pressurizing the air, and that's the air that then comes into your lungs. Okay? Here we go. Put the face back on for you. Let me just make sure before we leave the screen share that that's everything I wanted to share with you. I think it is. Okay. Okay. Well, is that new information for anyone? It sure was new for me to learn. Okay. Go ahead. Okay. The book that, a couple of books, and I know that Brandon, you'll have them in the resources part, but the book that this is my this is my COVID book. This is the book that I started reading over a year ago, and I have been reading it all year. I just keep on reading it. It's now required reading for my Alexander Technique class at UNCG. I've practiced pretty much everything in the book. This will be my 4th time through the book. I learned so much from this book. What he's done is he's taken all this information that I have been learning about breath over the years. I did a yoga training like 10 years ago. I did my Alexander Technique training back in 2003, 2 and 3. He has distilled a lot of that information here, which is why he subtitles the book The New Science of a Lost Art. And he outlines his journey. He's not a doctor. He's a journalist, a very inquisitive guy. He wrote the book about called Deep, where he followed the free divers, people who jump off of take a big breath and jump off of boats and swim down 300 feet and come back 5 to 10 minutes later on a single breath. And he didn't believe it, so he embedded himself with them and went to go learn how to do that. And he says they weren't people who were any different from any of us. They were like teachers and lawyers and accountants and just regular people. They weren't like superhumans. They were people who trained themselves to hold their breath. so that they could go swimming under the ocean with animals. And James says in his book, the longest lived animals are the ones who breathe the slowest. Think of turtles. They breathe the slowest. And we, as Western consumers, we over everything. We over breathe, we overeat, we over consume. We're such consumers that we even over consume breath. And so what he teaches, and what I have been on this journey for a while now, is how to slow down your breath, how to not mouth breathe. I mean, I'm mouth breathing when I'm talking, but what I've done recently this year as a horn player in the symphony, since we're not working as much, is I've been starting to practice breathing through my nose and playing the horn. When possible, to take a nose breath, take a nose breath, when possible. So so I have some time, right? Okay. That's what I want us to download that into your system. Now, the next thing I want us to practice, because what this class is about is what to do in the moment that you are stressed out. And I can definitely relate to that as a performer. When you are suddenly on stage and it's time to play your solo and the conductor looks at you and the audience is there, and it's not exactly the same as, you know, being at home on your couch. It's like, go. This is what I've been training for. Here's the moment. And so in that moment, I will have needed to practice that experience. I will have needed to practice letting go a lot so that in that moment I have a ghost of a chance of being able to do that. So one of the things that I like to practice when I'm here at home, I do it actually in rehearsals quite a bit, but in the moment of performance, I'll just sit and let go of my legs. So let's do a little bit of that. So find yourself in a chair. When we sit in a chair, what we want to find is our sit bone under each side. So let's just topple left to right. If you're on a hard enough chair, you will be able to feel this. A soft chair is a little more difficult to feel. If you're on the floor, you can also feel it. But if we topple left to right, you feel that bone under there, your sit bones? They're called your rocker bones. Now, if you come closer to the edge of your chair, you can rock your pelvis back and rock it forward. So we're rocking. Now we're going in the direction of the design of the bone. They're rocker bones, they're sit bones, they're your ischial tuberosities. They are round. So there's not one correct way to sit. There's a lot of ways to sit. A lot. When we're rocking, you can feel that your upper body is moving with it, right? It's compensating for where your hips are. Let's find a mid-ground area, right? So we're not going to be really arched. We're not going to be really slouched. We're going to find a middle area. And so you have found your sit bones. And last night in class in UNCG, I was asking my students to just stick their finger under there and feel the sit bone and pull it out just a little bit. And feel the sit bone and pull it out just a little bit. So you make yourself a nice wide base on which to sit. And then let's take our hands onto our thighs and just start to move one leg and then the other leg. What you're doing is you want your legs to be free up in here, up in the hip socket. This. You don't want to squeeze. your legs tight. Try it. Squeeze your legs tight so that you can't even barely move your legs, and then release. So your legs, we don't really need our legs when we sit. We don't. We're not sitting on our legs, we're sitting on our sit bones. If we fall over, our legs will catch us. But generally, we're just sitting on our sit bones, and we want our legs to be quite free and easy, and feel the ground. Feel the ground with your feet. Good. And let's take this up into just a little walk. So I'm going to come up out of my chair and onto my legs. Take a little stroll. Think about that freedom that you just felt in your hip sockets. Back to sitting. Now the next little simple thing that I teach all my students, and it's especially, I really think it's especially important this year since people are looking into the screen even more than we did before, which was already a lot, is how do we let go of our eyes? How do we do it? Remember I showed you the muscles, the 6 muscles that wrap around the eyeball, that move the eyeball. How do we let those go? What do we do? I learned from an Alexander teacher who teaches specifically, his specialty is to teach natural vision improvement using the Alexander technique and his method, which is called the eye-body method. I learned this from him, and I teach it to my students. I'm going to come a little closer to my screen. He teaches how to palm the eyes. Palming the eyes, basically it's like a quick reboot of your central nervous system. That's what we're doing. So when my students are flipping out because everything is due, their papers are due, their recitals are coming up, and they're just freaked out, we do palming. So the palm, this is going to become a cup, like almost like you're holding some shampoo, and that's going to go right over your orbit, right over. So the heel of your hand rests on your cheekbone just beneath your eye. And my hand is going to go a little diagonally because my other hand is going to do the same thing. It's going to cross over my other fingers. Here we go. My eyelids are down. I'm palming my eyes. And now that I'm bathing my eyes in darkness, now that I've done that, I'm just going to open my eyes just a little bit and see if any light is leaking in. And if it is, I'm going to close it off with a little more of my hand. And I'm going to close my eyelids again. And then, since our arms are up in the air, we're going to think about releasing the shoulders. Now, I like to do this on my front steps because I can rest my elbows on my knees, like so. I also like to do it on the floor because then I can put a couple pillows under my elbows and I don't have to work in my arms and shoulders to palm my eyes. Once our eyes are bathed in darkness, now, if you have glasses, obviously take off your glasses. Once our eyes are bathed in darkness, go into that visual that I asked you to imprint of the 6 muscles of the eye, of each eyeball. So the eyeball is squishy, it's round, it's mostly liquid, it's aqueous humor, it's vitreous humor, it's very liquid, it's soft. So it is susceptible to muscles grabbing it and tightening around it. The shape of it actually gets changed by tight muscles in your eye. And when the shape of your eyeball gets changed, then the focus onto the retina also gets messed with. So if your eyeball is squeezed flat, then the focus, which should be landing on your retina for clear vision, is actually falling somewhere in front of it, which makes what is hitting the retina real blurry. And so what I experienced spending a week with this man who was teaching it all 25 of us experienced vision improvement that week, all 25 of us, because we learned how to soften our eyes, how to let go of all the gripping and grabbing in the actual intrinsic eye muscles. And so what we do is we palm the eyes, thinking through the visual system, thinking about those muscles going back to their resting length, and then adding some breath work to that. So slow, deep breath in through the nose. I particularly like to think of exhale as a way to release tension. When you exhale out, you're releasing excess tension. The in-breath is soft and slow and easy. The exhale, you're blowing out tension. So you're letting those muscles go back to their softening length. And then when your hands come down, leave your eyes closed. So the hands come down and you leave your eyelids down. And what you're doing is then light comes in. And this is why I particularly like to do it outside. As I'm teaching you this, we're at a little bit of a disadvantage because if you were in my class, I would teach this portion of the class outside. We would sit in a beautiful place where we could look out at a visual feast. Last night we were looking at trees and flowers and bricks and stones outside the music building at UNCG. But you can do this. You can do this on your own, where you go outside, you find a nice place. Maybe it's your front porch, maybe it's the park, maybe it's anywhere where you look at something pretty, flowers, trees, nature. And you sit and breathe and bathe the eyes in darkness like so. And then you bring your hands down, you leave your eyelids down, and you let the light come in. So when the light comes in, what you'll see are colors. You might see red, orange, yellow. I've been with students who say, wow, everything is green, blue, purple, red. They'll see like the whole rainbow. And you'll see patterns. You might see like a honeycomb pattern. You'll see movement through your eyelids. And so I'm not suggesting that you please don't stare into the sun. That's not what I want you to do. Do not do that. What I usually do is I get into a space where it is sunny, but I'm not facing the sun because there's plenty of light that will come into the eye that way. And then you just do it again. You palm the eyes, you breathe. It seems like it will have no effect, but I promise you it is really impactful. And basically what it's doing is quieting down your central nervous system. It's quieting everything down. It's improving your vision. It improved my color. It improved my depth perception. It actually made my sight clearer. Let's do one more thing that I'd like you to practice. Actually, let's do it on the floor. So let's come back to the floor again, please. And if you don't want to be on the floor, you can be in a chair, that's fine. Go onto the floor, and I will talk you through this one last time. It's actually easier to palm your eyes when you're on the floor. If you can't set your elbows on your knees, or this is something that you can definitely do with students. You're the teacher, you're the best judge of what will work because you know your students. But I'm envisioning students sitting at a desk with their elbows on a desk would be a comfortable way for them to be able to palm their eyes. It's very calming. I see my college students do it every week. They come in, they get on the floor, and they just block out all the light, and they instantly, their energy calms down. So this
Rachel,
is
about how long, we have a question about how long should we hold our eyes?
should we palm the eyes?
Yes.
It's really up to you. It's for several breaths, a couple of minutes, and then hands down, and then back up again, and pants. It just kind of depends on how much time you have and how comfortable your arms are. If you can be in an outdoor space, that's really ideal. Or even at a window. When we had class during COVID, we were just online, my students would sit at an open window, and because they didn't have Wi-Fi outside. So that's how we did that. So now we're back on the floor again. And whenever you get onto the floor, feel your back body on the floor. So get back in touch with the floor again. I want to put together now all of these things that we've been practicing and talking about. So now we're on the floor. Go to your breath first thing. Breathing in and out through the nose. And before we palm the eyes, let's bring one of your hands up. It doesn't matter which hand. And let's close off your right nostril. The left nostril, breathing in and out through the left nostril, is associated with slowing down your heart rate, lowering your blood pressure, creating a feeling of calm in the body. As a musician and a performer, I do this a lot, where I close off the right nostril and I'm just breathing in and out through the left. Slow, deep, soft breathing, not over breathing, not huffing and puffing, just letting the air out. Allow yourself to empty. When you get to the feeling where you would like to breathe, get in touch with that feeling. Breathing is something that people do. They they either ignore it or they force themselves to do it, or they're completely unaware of it. What we want to do is create some awareness of breath. And then once you have that awareness, once you're paying attention to it, do not over breathe. Just breathe softly. Breathe out, empty all of your air out without squeezing, just let it out. And then allow it to come in. Allow. Don't do it. Don't force it. Just allow it. In and out through the left. I like to do this at night. Actually, I was going to tell you, yesterday something loud, I don't know, it was a bird or something, woke me up really early. And there I was awake, and it was still dark, and I was so mad. And I remembered, oh yeah, if I breathe in and out through my left nostril, I will fall back asleep. And that is exactly what happened. I just laid on my right side, closed off my right nostril, calmed myself back down mentally and physically, lowered the heart rate, lowered the blood pressure, and I fell back asleep. I was really happy to be able to get that, because sleep, I don't even have to tell you how important sleep is. So at night, when you're going to sleep, if you're having trouble, experiment with this. Close off the right nostril. Soft and slow and deep. Breathing into your back, breathing into your sides. Now, if you need the opposite of that, if you need to be more awake, if you're getting ready for something and you want your brain to be working really well, go to your right nostril. So you close off the left. What that does is it increases your heart rate. It creates more cortisol. It creates more adrenaline. It creates this more up that you need sometimes. Now, your nose is doing this for you all day long, but in an instance when you want to have more control over it, you can use this alternate nostril breathing method to do that. And definitely, if you feel like it would be helpful for your students and feasible to teach them this is a really good thing for kids to know. Is before a test, they might feel nervous, breathing in and out through the left side. Or if they're really sleepy after lunch, breathing in and out through the right. sort of perk them up without caffeine. So we're back on our back. Let's palm the eyes. So bring your hands, take off your glasses, bring your hands to your eyes. Remember that the heel of the hand rests on the bottom of the eye socket, the bony bottom of the eye socket. And you cross your fingers because our intention here is to block out all light. You can open up your eyes underneath your hands and say, oh, there's a little light poking in. I'm going to block it off. And then close your eyelids again. Now, a good way to understand those eye muscles, the 6 eye muscles, is to look at them on an anatomy app. A way to find them and feel them is while you're palming your eyes and your eyelids are down, just let your eyes underneath, not your neck, not your head, just your eyes, looking left and right. You sort of sweep your eyes left and right underneath your eyelids. Go kind of slow, slow sweep, and ask, what is it that is moving my eyes? Can you feel the eye muscles working? And then let's sweep around in a circle underneath the eyelids. Sweep around in a circle and sweep the other way, opposite direction. Feeling eye muscles working. And then let's go up diagonally to the right and down diagonally to the left. So do some diagonal movement under your eyelids. Diagonal movement the opposite way. This you're getting a sense. Let your eyes come back to the center and rest. You have more of a sense of what was moving your eyeballs. Those are the muscles. Now, sometimes if one or more of those muscles are tight, it might be easy to go around the circle and then you'll hit like a little hitch or a little jump. So that's a tight muscle. You want to soften into that. You want to breathe into that. You want to visualize that muscle going back to its resting length. This is something that you can do it in bed at night. You can do it when you wake up in the morning. You can do it after you've been on the screen for a while. You can do it if you are outside. I mean, even if you're like in a parking lot where there's some sun outside and you're just hanging out and waiting for something. You really can practice this in creative places and teaching it to your students just for fun, just for play. Teaches them the anatomy of their eyes. It also teaches them how to release their eyes. Getting them thinking, becoming more aware of their eye muscles and their face and their eyes and how they see things. So because we're working with the eyes, I just want to ask the question, eyes, vision. You know, we have a focus in our culture of clear vision. Everything has to be clear and crisp, right? But there's more to vision than just seeing what's crisp and clear at arm's length. We want to work on seeing things in the far distance. We want to, every day, go outside and look at the horizon. It's very important that your eyes, for the health of your eyes, to see the far distance, the middle distance, and the near distance. If we're looking at a screen, we're just seeing the near distance. Our eyes aren't getting the healthy diet that they need. They want to see outside. So maybe after this class today, you can just walk outside or walk to an open window and look at the horizon, look at the clouds, look at the tops of trees. When you're, in your house, look at the floor all the way to the wall. Notice what is in the near and middle distance around your body. And remember that when you look at things, you see it from the back of your head. That's where the upper visual cortex is, in the back of your brain. So this is my question for you. Vision and visualizing isn't necessarily done with the eyes, but more of like the internal thinking, the internal image. When do you feel your best? When? Is it when you first wake up? Is it when work is over? Is it after you've eaten or had a glass of wine? Or, when do you feel your best? And now try to get into that feeling right now of when you feel your best. When do you feel your happiest? Maybe it's when you're out walking. Maybe it's when you're standing looking at a mountain. I want you to feel that feeling in your body right now. When do you feel your best? What does it feel like to feel your best? Your happiest, your calmest? It's important to remember that feeling and to go back to that feeling. I think a lot of people are very stressed out a lot of the time. So that builds and that builds and that builds. What I want to do is think about when I'm feeling very good, feeling very grounded, feeling very centered, feeling easy, and remember that feeling and take that feeling with you, even into a stressful situation. Go to your breath. There's someone said, stress is what happens when you resist the experiences of your life. So what would happen if we just didn't resist? What if we just flowed? What if we were just flowing like the water? Less like the rock, but more like the water. What if you didn't resist it? I mean, sometimes when I am stressed out about playing in the symphony, I remember, oh yeah, stress is what happens when I resist the experience of my life. I've chosen to do this. I want to do this. I want to play in the symphony. Why in the world am I resisting that? That helps me. That helps me go, oh yeah, I chose this. Here we go. Here we go. This is going to be fantastic. I'm excited. Excitement and worry, it's the same energy. It's just framed a little bit differently. So these are some things that we can do yourself to take care of yourself. Your breath, your slow breath, your nasal breathing, palming the eyes, softening, imprinting your anatomy, your visual anatomy, your nasal anatomy, breathing, thinking through the sinuses and what the benefit of doing that is. So the last thing before we end that I wanted to make sure that we talked a little bit about was the feet. And we did talk about feeling the feet while we were standing. So if you would please, if you're still on the floor, roll to your side like we did before. Come up carefully, slowly. And when you come up, take your breath with you, your nasal breathing. Your nasal breathing will accompany you all the time. So basically, we want to nasal breathe the way through our lives. Okay, now sitting up, maybe sitting, I'm just sitting kind of like this, but if I'm going to take my foot in my hand in a really easy way. Scooch my computer down a little bit. So I'm going to take my foot in my hand. I'm just going to feel it. I love to walk barefoot. I also wear shoes that give me plenty of room so that I'm not squeezing my toes. That's what we want. We have 50,000 nerve endings on the bottom of our foot. And they are informing so much about how we walk and move and feel. So I'm just going to take my foot and I'm going to feel it. All the 26 bones of the foot. Your heel bone, you have your what are called tarsal bones around your heel. Then you have these long bones of the foot, metatarsals that come down towards your toes. You have 5 of those. And then you have 3 toe bones on each toe, except for your big toe, just has 2 bones. So go ahead and feel all the movement that is possible in the foot. Every place where bone comes in contact with another bone is a joint. And every place where there's a joint, there's movement. There's fluid and there's movement. So a lot of people treat the foot like it's a shoe, a blob of flesh at the bottom of our leg. And I want you to think into the skeleton of the foot. I want you to pass this information along to your little students too, that the anatomy of the hand and the anatomy of the foot are really, really similar. 27 bones in the hand, 26 bones in the foot. So feet are very capable, like hands. They're very capable. I was just watching this amazing YouTube video of a horn player in Europe who doesn't have any arms. He sits and plays his horn. He fingers it with his toes. It's amazing. He was playing a Mozart concerto. It was amazing. So your feet are highly capable. So just doing a little self-foot massage. Let's switch feet. This is also really good for your hips. So reach down and massage your feet. And I'm not sure this is something you could do in your classroom, maybe, I don't know. But teaching your students about how similar hands and feet are is helpful information. I like to, like I said, I like to find shoes that have a wider toe box. Look at a shoe, if it's squeezing your toes, you don't want that. No, it's not good for your back, it's not good for your neck, it's not good for your balance. We want to have shoes where your foot can spread out, where you can feel your whole foot. And just one more thing about the foot. A lot of people, I work with people walking, and a lot of people walk around their arch. And they sort of walk on the outsides of their feet. They wear out the outer heel of their shoe. They roll around the arch instead of walking over the arch. Now, what is an arch? It's a bridge. What do people do with bridges? They drive semi-trucks over them. Like, arches are really strong, and they're meant to absorb the weight of your body as you move over it, and they spring right back up again. It's like a really important part of the mechanics of the walk is to move through your arch and spring off the big toe. And so if we could do that as soon as we're done, like if you felt sort of all the joints and squishiness of both your feet, let's go ahead and stand up again. Last time we'll stand. Come up to standing and just stand. Don't walk quite yet. Let's just stand. It's going to move my computer again so that I don't look like I've been chopped off. Wait, does that work?
That looks great, Rachel.
Okay, so I'm just going to stand and feel the feet that I have just given a really easy massage to. What that massage is just creating awareness of my contact with the floor. So just for fun, let's come onto our heels. Let's shift our weight to the back, where the majority of our weight is in the heels, and then we're tipping over backwards. It causes a lot of strain in the ankle to keep from falling backwards, right, and gripping in my quad. Now let's come onto the front of the foot. So moving forward. And here I'm really leaning into my toes, and my toes are gripping so I don't fall forward. And let's come onto the whole foot now. What we do in Alexander technique is we learn how to stand over our legs. Standing over our legs. That sounds silly, because aren't we standing on our legs? When I'm standing, a lot of people stand in front of their legs, you can see. I used to be a gymnast and I would stand in front of my legs. I didn't know I was severely arching my back. That's why my back was in so much pain. I didn't know. And a lot of people, I was working with these college kids last night, a lot of people stand behind their legs. So they were really throwing their hips forward. And this is just how they stand. I was working with a flute player and he was doing this and his lower back was really hurting. So we want to learn how to stand over our legs because then we don't have to work so hard. It's so much easier if I just stand here in my skeleton. Now let's take a little walk and think about walking over the arch. Just let the weight of your body move from the heel, midfoot, to the ball of the big toe and off the big toe. So the big toe is the last thing that leaves the ground. Shifting our weight from one leg to the next. You're letting yourself walk in your whole foot, which includes your arch. Whole foot, which includes your arch. All right. I wish we could do more, but what I have, one of the things that I thought of, which would be fun if some teachers wanted to do it. I live very close to Dix Park, and if any of you teachers wanted to get together and have a little bit of a group class there outside, we could work on the eyes outside where it's good to work. We could work with walking. So we could maybe make a little group class. If you want to contact me, I could organize that. Because I have done a lot of one workshop, and it's a lot of information. And just from myself, I know that the information kind of flies away when I move on to the next thing. So it takes repeating it. I know that you can come back and watch this video if you forget some of the things that we practiced today. But if you are interested, please email me. Will my email be available?
Yes, and I just put it in the chat.
Okay, and then Brandon, would you please share the last drawing that I sent you? This is the this I thought I thought teachers might appreciate this. Homework for life. Now, it's fun homework and it's homework that you will love to do. This is self-care homework. It's taking care of yourself. You can teach it to everyone in your family. Teach it anyone who can get down on the floor, which is, I haven't met anyone who can't get on the floor. I mean, some people it takes a little time. My mom is 90. She gets out on the floor. And for the art teachers out there, I added some color because I drew that. Homework for life. Every day, your mind and body will love it. Yes, do it. It helps you feel calm and rested. Adding to that, what we talked about today, the nasal breathing, alternate nostril breathing, palming the eyes, visualizing yourself in that calm, rested place is really important. It's impactful. I mean, these are simple things that sometimes they seem too simple to work. But I have to say, I've worked with a lot of people who have some pretty big physical problems and mental too. We think that there's a big problem, that we need a big solution. And sometimes the solution is so tiny for a big problem. Like, oh my God, I have this huge problem. I'm just a nervous wreck. I'm going to this audition. Okay, well, when you're walking out on stage, just feel your feet on the ground. Boom. Like that's all that is sometimes is needed. It is the smallest little turn, smallest little twist in your perspective or the message that you're telling yourself. Anyway, I hope that is helpful. And I hope that some of this can transfer to your students. You can, if you want, I mean, don't feel obligated to do that because this is class. It's just for you and yourself. But if you can transfer some of that to your students, I think it's so amazing what teachers are doing. And the fact that you are literally shaping the lives of the next group of humans who are coming up it's so cool to be able to teach them, how do you breathe? Where do we breathe? How do I calm myself down? How do I wake myself up? What is breath? I mean, the word, I just find the word attention so interesting when you tell little kids to pay attention. Attention, like the word tension is in that word. And I always tell my students to work easy. Don't work hard, work easy. Work well and concentrate, but work easy. Yeah, taking the tension out of it. I don't think the tension helps anything. So if you are interested in having a getting together, please contact me. If you want to have private lessons, I also do that. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rachel. This has been amazing. I don't know if you can see the chat, but my favorite one so far was this has been over the top amazing, or over the top incredible. So thank you, Mary, for sharing that. That's great. Well, so just like when Rachel was talking about how we can transfer what we're learning here to take care of ourselves into some of the things that we can do with our students. Again, not everything's applicable, but a lot of things can be adjusted. Lots of great chat here of, feeling what's around you, noticing what's around you, and palming the eyes and doing the calming things before tests or before even the school day begins. I like that too. That's great. These are wonderful.
Yes.
Excellent.
Wow.
Well, thank you. Does anybody if you have any questions, you have a little button down towards the bottom that lets you raise your hand, and you can go ahead and use that button or you can type it into the chat at this point.
Yeah, I love seeing what you all are sharing. Closing the eyes for a moment, breathing to calm before class. Stand, breathe, notice what's around you. That's so important. I felt like when I started practicing this constructive rest and sort of just taking a moment to pay attention to things, I started to see so much more around myself.
Teresa, yeah, I was just telling Rachel when she first showed us her app that I always used to show live videos of the vocal cords singing, and my kids would get squeamish and grossed out. So this might be a little bit better of a way. I love it.
Oh, and Mary's comment, preparing for state exams to have students do nostril breathing and closing off the left nostril as well as palming the eyes. And what an amazing thing to do for a minute or two right before taking standardized tests.
Especially if you teach the kids to do it pretty normally and then they automatically start doing it during the 3-minute breaks just to kind of reset themselves. Yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit about some closing business. We love that you are here today. Sayward is going to drop this the survey link into the chat. As soon as you fill out the survey, you will be automatically emailed a participation certificate that you can take to your LEA. If you don't get it, you may have typed in your email incorrectly, or it may be a glitch in the system. So if you haven't gotten it within 24 hours, please do reach out because I can go into the system and double check everything. Lastly, everything will be archived in our webinar archives. And with that, we are offering a digital badge for everyone who comes to or who has watched the first session, which was last week and is in the archive. The very last session, which is called the Mindful Classroom and is all about how to integrate arts, SEL, and regular content or non-arts content together. And then 3 additional sessions of your choice. So this would be one of those choice sessions. We also have the A+ University videos that we would love people to participate in as well. We do have a couple other SEL resources coming up. In June is a course from the North Carolina Museum of Art, which they do amazing arts integration. So it's all about social and emotional learning combined with whatever it is that you teach. A lot of it says justice oriented and global citizenry. We also have the North Carolina Symphony has their musical meditations that they put out. I believe it's about every 2 weeks.
Welcome
in
to
conjunction with the state parks. They've worked on a project together. These are great meditative moments that you can just do with your kids for a few minutes. And we have all of our arts ed resources as well pertaining to SEL. So thank you so much for being here today. We hope to see you at more of our sessions next week. Sayward is doing mindful movement, and so it is about movement. It's not just dance, so don't worry if you're not a dancer. And
I was going to say it's really just an extension of this workshop, so it's kind of building on these same principles for sure.
Yeah, and then my workshop is next Thursday, and it's called Mindful Meter, where we're going to explore rhythm, breath, and music making in how we can do music for health and wellness, really honestly. So again, you don't have to be a musician, and we would love to have everybody there. And we will drop the link into the chat again for the webinar archive. Currently, the way that the archive looks is that it's full of registration links, but as soon as I get the recording, I update the website to change it to the recording link and the slide deck instead of the registration. So we are concluded at this time. Thank you so much for sticking it out for 90 minutes. I hope that you feel like you've taken care of yourself. And if you have any questions, we will hang on for a few minutes, but otherwise you are welcome to go ahead and get dinner started at this point. Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for joining us, and we hope to see you at the next ones next week.
Big thank you to Rachel and also to Jason Spencer, who is the Arts Ed Director at the Symphony, for connecting us.
Have a wonderful rest of your week, everyone.
Brandon, how do I join to watch Sayward's class? Do I need a password for that?
You don't. I will send you the registration link, and you can just register yourself right there for it.
Oh, okay. All right. Cool. Great. All right.
Hey, Brandon, I cannot fill the form. It looks like it's frozen.
If you click on it, is it showing you like a little warning site that says external site? You might have to click a button that just says continue, or you can copy and paste the link and put it into your browser.
All right,
If it's not letting you click directly on it. Yeah, sometimes coming from WebEx, it doesn't like to go directly out to another site. So try copy and pasting it and see if that helps.
All right, thank you.
But you will get it in an email tomorrow as well. So it will be emailed to you in a follow-up email.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
But I will double check the settings just in case.
Is it possible to see the chat later on? Because I didn't really have a chance to look at it.
Yes, that is one of the things that's archived as well.
Okay, cool. Great. I don't know how you do it. Like look at a chat and
It's hard.
talk. Can do one thing or the other.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks so much.
Thank
That
you.
was super fun.
Absolutely. And we will send you the feedback as well.
Oh, that'd be great.